They didn't see fit to prolong the lives of sick or old people. They became burdens and extra mouths. Friends, let's talk today about Vikings and the creepy things they did. But before we start the video, I'll ask you to subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Thank you all very much. The Viking tribes, who lived in the 8th through 11th centuries, could live peacefully and quietly, hunting, fishing, and farming. But overpopulation and a lack of land for crops forced them to seek new territories. They began to engage in piracy, organize grandiose military campaigns, robbed civilians, and captured enemies. Their habits, customs, and traditions seem horrible and inappropriate to a modern person, but such were their mores. Death-worthy and unworthy. Vikings treated the death of tribesmen in a very peculiar way. Only a heroic death on the battlefield was respected. Those killed in battle were never abandoned. But death from old age, or because of a wound in their homes, was considered worthy of contempt. Especially old people suffered, and they, anticipating their demise, asked their relatives to perform a ritual murder. Burial. The relatives of the deceased were not sad about the relatives passing into the next world, but on the contrary, they were happy and satisfied. After all, death meant the transition to paradise, to the castle to the god Odin. In one burial mound, a horse and a dog were buried together with a warrior. The wife could also follow the dead man, but only if she agreed. Attitude to women. Vikings treated their women with tolerance. They had an understanding that a good wife is a calm and unafraid wife. Then she would keep the house and cook deliciously and faithfully wait for her warrior from distant raids to give him love and affection. But this attitude did not apply to women of other ethnic groups. Even religious beliefs did not stop them. Warriors could capture nuns and turn the brides of Christ into hostages. The Scottish nuns, once captured by the Vikings, were terrified to see what would be done to them. And Abbess Ebba, in order not to fall prey to the barbarians and preserve her honor, cut her face. Other nuns did the same. Vikings did not mess with fanatical nuns, but set fire to the monastery, having barricaded all exits beforehand. Described in Gurevich's works Viking Campaigns, Terror and Beauty. Vikings resorted to various tricks to frighten the enemy, not only with rattling weapons, but also with their appearance. Warriors made saw cuts on their teeth, which made their grin look formidable and imposing. Mutilated teeth defined status and served as an emblem of steadfastness, defiance, and total contempt for pain. Studies of nearly 600 Viking remains have shown that more than 20 of them had sawed lines on their teeth depicting a fearsome pattern, wrote anthropologist Caroline Archini. The men of the tribe were not strangers to beauty. They liked beautiful jewelry and face painting more than women. Not all the means used were safe. Vikings eyelined their eyes with liquids containing mineral acids that corroded the skin and left microburns. In the paints for makeup there was lead, and in the eyes to dilate the pupils they injected the juice of krasavka, which contained atropine. After such experiments, many handsome men had problems with their eyesight. Rigid traditions. The Vikings were fearless and ruthless. Helmets with horns, terrible grins, wild screams. So they went to the enemy. But before the battle, they also fueled their rage. To do this, the warriors gnawed fiercely on the edge of the shield. Legendary berserkers who fought without armor, only with a bare skin on their shoulders, used other methods. Before the battle, they drank a decoction of fly agaric, prepared by sorcerers, and in battle they felt neither pain from wounds nor fatigue. And the decoction had such an effect on the psyche that the berserkers, being in a combat trance, destroyed the enemy with special cruelty and felt no mercy for him. But the Vikings did not spare not only enemies, but also tribesmen. A warrior wounded in the stomach had very little chance to get help. Onion soup was poured into the wounded man's mouth, and then the healers were summoned. They sniffed the stomach, and if they smelled onions, they knew that the wounded man's stomach and intestines were damaged. So he was doomed, and there was no need to waste time on his treatment. And the healers of those times did not know how to deal with such wounds. Not only brave warriors, but also rogues. Vikings did not bend to deceit and received profits, deceiving gullible Europeans. They established trade relations with the Eskimos and bought from them the tusks of toothed narwhals, and then sold them for huge sums of money to the people of Europe. In the Middle Ages, people believed in fairy pony alicorns without reservation. Scandinavians passed off whale tusks as unicorn horns. Europeans were convinced that the horn of a magical creature has healing powers, cures diseases, and prolongs youth, and carried their money to cheaters. Notes in the article Daily Life of the Vikings Buder. Once every 9 years, the chief gathered representatives of all the tribes. According to tradition, 9 male animals and 9 warriors were to be sacrificed. Many men aspired to the altar of sacrifice, but only the most worthy were honored. The blood of the slain was sprinkled on those present at the sacred act, and their bodies were hung on trees in the sacred forest. In myths, legends, and movies, Vikings often appear to us as barbarians with noble features. They're like ingenuous, pumped-up big men. But their violent penetrations into foreign lands, seizure of territories and slaves, robberies, rapes, and frauds say otherwise. Yes, they tried to survive and settle on fertile lands in the harshest conditions of the Middle Ages. But the methods of achieving their goals were characterized by ruthlessness and inhumanity. Well, that's how all people behaved in those times.